Mr. Scott, hello, how you doing?
Hello there. How are you? I'm doing well. I'm happy to say, thanks to God.
Yeah, amen. I know that's right. Me too. I was telling you earlier, it's my anniversary, and been with my husband. We've been married for 23 years and together for 30 years. And I'm like, glory to Jesus. Without
Yes.
the Lord, it was on my side, baby.
Oh man, that's quite an accomplishment, I tell you.
It is. It really is. And I was looking at the photos of us, put some photos, and it's just, seeing us change as the seasons. And you look and you see sometimes we're like really happy, sometimes weren't as happy. Sometimes we were aligned, sometimes we weren't. You know what I mean?
I
And at
do
the
know.
end of the day, and I even put on there, I did a post and I even said, sometimes we were in love, sometimes we weren't, but love and God have sustained us. And I just love it
Amen.
that we have a story to tell. And
Yes.
it's one of the things that I like about doing this radio show and being engaged in social media, period, is that I get to learn so much about people. So I want to thank my girl Rosalind Bartel for introducing you to me and hear
Yes.
a little bit about your amazing story. So do tell me, where are you from?
I'm from Texas, Fort Worth, Texas.
Okay.
Yes, the Dallas Fort Worth area.
Okay, that's where you grew up. Is that where you lived most of your life, or?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Oh, we have a daughter in Mansfield.
Oh, okay.
We
That's
have a
right
daughter
around
in
the corner.
Mansfield. So what'd you say?
That's right around the corner.
Uh-huh. So do you have children? You have a family? What's your family unit?
Well, I'm divorced. My children
Okay.
are grown. My elder son, my first son, passed away due to heart failure.
Hmm.
And I now have my daughter and my youngest son. They're still living in the States, in Texas.
And they're in Texas as well.
Yes.
I always ask people who have become expats, when you decided to become an expat, how did your kids feel about that?
Oh, my kids were okay with it. My daughter expressed a little bit of concern, but they just wanted me to do what I felt like I needed to do to be happy.
Amen. That's some good kids right there.
Oh, thanks.
Sometimes they be scared for you, because they think it's a faraway place, or because it's an international, they just kind of feel some angst. But that's
Right.
good. So I guess you had also been in the military, right? So did you do a lot of traveling with the military? How did that go?
I did a lot of traveling, but it was as a combat veteran. I I went all over the West Pacific, and I was only in there 1 year, 1 month, and 1 day. So my experience wasn't really that great. It was during the Vietnam period,
Oh.
and I am disabled as a
Mhm.
result of my experience in the Vietnam theater. So I was really actually kind of happy to get back.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your service, sir. We appreciate you.
Thank
So,
you.
okay, so how did you decide to come to Panama? Was it your first choice? And what made you decide to leave the United States and make another country your home, and when? When did you do that?
Well, I was like I think the majority of us. I was concerned about my funds, my money, and how far it would go, considering that my needs were changing as an elder person.
Yes.
I started looking at other countries and the economic uh, situation and discovered that Panama, as far as I could tell, had the most favorable economic environment out of all the places that I considered going. For one thing, the dollar bill is protected here. So if the dollar crashes in the United States, our money will not be affected here in Panama, because once we get here, our dollar bills actually become Panamanian money. So that was a big part of my decision as well. It become the
Really?
Balboas.
Oh, see, I've never heard that, because, you know, I know that they have the Balboa here, but I just, you know, my understanding is that it's US currency. So I guess I really hadn't thought about the US dollar crashing somewhere else and how it would affect here, but you're saying we wouldn't experience the same effect.
Not at all. The Minister of Finance issued a statement, I think it was in the middle of last year, indicating that we should not worry, the expats should not worry about our money here, because of the fact that when the money is transferred here, it actually becomes Balboas. And so if or some people say when, the dollar bill crashes in the United States, it will not affect the amount of, or the value of the money that we have here.
Well, that's interesting. Like I said, I love doing these things because I learned so much, and I learned so much about people. So, okay, so tell me, when did you decide? So you decided on Panama. When did you decide on Panama, and what did your process look like at that point as far as coming from the States to Panama? Did you come a few times? You know, did you look at different areas of Panama? How did that go?
Yes, I decided that I would check out the David and Boquete area. It seemed to put me sort of in the middle of Panama, and that way I could have access to the other places that I might want to check out, like Boca del Toro, or Pedasí, or any of those other places. It put me right in the middle, and I knew that there was a large expat community here, so I wondered if I might have trouble with the language, but surprisingly, my high school Spanish has served me very well.
Oh,
And I've been learning
did start
more.
coming back to you?
Yes, indeed.
That's awesome. So when you when you came here, what year was that?
I visited, as you asked me, I did visit in 2020. I came to the Alta Boquete area, met some people that actually treated me like family, and was very thrilled with the experience. I went back home and made preparations to come back. Sold my house, sold everything that I could that I owned. I was so intent on coming here and trying to get here before the immigration rules changed, that I actually left items. I sold my house and left items in the house that I wasn't able to sell.
You were just out. You were just out. So tell me this, how long from the time, so you came in 2020, you're like, that's it, I'm here. So you never came to Panama City or any of the other places. You went straight to the David Boquete area.
Right.
Okay, so then you come home, and how long between the time you left and went back to the States and then came back and to move here?
Almost a year to the day.
Almost a year. Okay, so during that time, you went home, you got all your affairs in order, you sold your house, you got rid of your stuff. Did you ship stuff, or did you just leave or give away everything?
I did ship some things, items that I felt were personal to me. I thought that would be useful to me here. I did ship.
Okay. So, and I definitely understand that. I mean, having done that myself, I just, you know, I just can't imagine leaving everything behind. And a lot of people, they say they've left things behind, but let me tell you, there's a lot of stuff they've left behind in a storage unit that they can go back. I mean, there's just some parts of your life you cannot, you know, just put in the trash or donate. I mean, photos, you know, I mean, things like that are just, I was definitely wasn't ready to be trying to do anything like that. Okay, so you come back in 2021.
Yes.
So you came back during COVID.
I did.
Okay, so what month did you come back in 2021? Do you remember?
It was the end of August going into September.
Okay, so by then we were pushing up on our second year
Yeah,
of COVID.
yeah,
And when you went to Boquete, so you waited, so that's when like everything was open again and you could fly back into Panama. Because for a while, Panama had shut down. So I guess when you were able to come, you came to Boquete. So you
yeah.
came to Boquete when you arrived, had you already predetermined where you were going to live? Did you decide that you would buy, or did you come in wanting to lease first?
I came in thinking that I would lease first and then buy, but as you might imagine, all of that changed when I experienced the situation with my leg.
Okay.
The first thing that I would like to mention is that it had already been indicated to me that Panama was not particularly favorable to persons with disabilities, mobility issues,
Mhm.
wheelchairs, that kind of thing. Panama is progressive. They have passed a law, I think, about 5 or 6 years ago that made it mandatory for the businesses to provide access. And
Mhm.
some of them have, but then some of them haven't.
Mhm.
It's understandable. It's probably quite an economic burden on the community to make those
Yeah.
changes. But the thing that really surprised me was um, the airline, uh, Copa Airlines, refused to fly me from Panama City to DeVille, even though I had a ticket. They refused
Why?
to put uh, my mobile uh, my mobility scooter. They refused to put it on the plane.
Wow.
Yes,
Wow.
and then
Okay. So, all right. So hang on a second. Let's back up a little bit.
okay,
All right. So you came here in about, you said August or September, or September, October time frame of
August, September.
2021.
Hmm.
Okay. And so when you got here, you came, and I just know based on talking to you that your idea was, to open up a business.
Right.
And that was going to be a restaurant.
Yes, I wanted to feed people.
You wanted to feed people.
Yes.
Well, that's one way to have everybody love you. I know I
Right.
love somebody to give me good food, baby. So, okay, so that was your idea. Now, okay, and we can't spend a lot of time on this, but I just wanted to say, you said something to me that I had not heard. And you said that when you came here, you were you were working through a concierge.
Yes.
And so a concierge, for those that don't know, is somebody who I guess is boots on the ground in Panama, or they probably have this service in other countries as well. So you're in Panama, they're in Panama, and they're helping you with your logistics as far as
Yes.
setting up your business.
Right.
And you use the concierge, and that didn't go very well.
It did not go well at all. No.
Okay.
The lady had a very elaborate um, deal set up. It looked legitimate in every way. She had lawyers. She had other professional persons working with her or for her. And it turned out that all of them were working together to scam anyone that did business with them.
Wow. So for people to know, the concierge was supposed to help you put everything together. And like you said, it's not like you just decided to engage with Joe Schmo.
Right.
It really looked like this lady had herself together. She
I
had a
had done a lot of research on it.
Mhm.
She had the website, the information there from other business people. All of it just appeared legitimate to the best of my knowledge and ability.
So being as though, I mean, you're an intelligent man, you've done your research and everything, and then still this concierge, didn't do you right at the end of the day. For people that are maybe aware of concierge services, that I could, because I wasn't aware of concierge services or might be considering them, what would you say your advice to them would be with
Don't do
regard
it.
to a concierge service? Just don't do it. Wait
Just
till you
don't do
boots
it.
on the ground, or because that she didn't come by a referral, right? You just did
No.
your research and found her.
Yeah, I did research and found it, but she had referrals there on the website.
Wow.
Other people, other businesses. This lady actually had been a police officer on one of the cruise ships.
Wow. So that's just I appreciate you sharing that with us, because that is just going to say you just have to be so careful. You have to be so careful. And one thing that I like now is that, we have a really large expat community here in Panama, and you can connect with that community. You got Black expats in Panama, you have Blingos you got Black expats in Panama City, you got Blingos in Boquete, and see if these people have ever used this service or whatever. And so that might be a helpful thing to do. So thank you for sharing. So all of that happened. Then we were in COVID, and then something else happened when you got here. So go ahead and tell us about the injury.
Yes, I had not been here, but perhaps about 3 months. The third month that I was here, still getting settled in, still making adjustments, I became sick, and I wondered if it was COVID because it was the flu-like symptoms, and it just so happened that I had met a family here that took me in sort of as a grandpa, and when I got sick, the the man of the household came over and basically was taking care of me, nursing me, trying to nurse me back to health. But just at the time that I thought I was getting better, my toes turned color, and within, I'd say, 3 or 4 days, it turned black, and the bottom of my foot turned black. So I decided that it was time to go to the hospital. But really, I should have gone to the hospital even long before that.
But you didn't know, because what were your symptoms, Mr. Scott?
I didn't. My only symptoms were like a bad cold, like
Yes.
like a flu-like symptom. And I was in the bed, and I was like eating my food had reduced to hot soup and liquids and pudding and that kind of thing because I couldn't eat solid food. But I thought I was on the outside edge of that. I thought I was getting better. But like I said, the fact that it was a thrombosis is what it actually was, a blood clot in my leg, and I did not recognize that that's what it was. I didn't recognize that those were the symptoms. And when I got to the hospital, I thought maybe I might lose my toes because they had turned so black. But when I woke up and found that I had lost my leg all the way up above my knee, I was in shock. I couldn't believe it.
Gosh, that is something, because, I remember them talking about blood clots during the height of COVID. I remember them talking about that, but I just don't see why anyone would have connected your symptoms to a blood clot. That's why I
Yeah,
wanted you to say what your symptoms were. And I guess, you're in your early 70s, and I guess back then you were in your late 60s,
no, I
but
was in my 70s.
it was you in your 70s
Mm-hmm.
in 2022, 2021.
21. I was 71.
Okay. So what I'm saying is that we just can't take anything for granted.
Right.
I think that a lot of us would have just assumed it's the flu, maybe back then, maybe took a COVID test,
Yes.
or whatever. Okay, so you end up in the hospital, and that brings us to our very next and important subject for expats, Black expats in Panama, and Black expats all over the world. The healthcare system
Right.
in Panama, and how it worked with the healthcare system that you had, with the U.S. healthcare system that you had. So can you share a little bit about your experience, because that was a major illness?
Yeah, I'd like share that. In fact, I did not have insurance other than my military insurance that I was receiving in the United States as a disabled veteran. I did not have to purchase a mandatory insurance like a lot of people had to do because I was covered by my military status.
Are you 100%?
Yes, well, actually not 100%, but still covered
Okay.
on the majority of things, and especially those things that were service related.
Service related, service connected.
Right. So when I came to Panama, I immediately applied for the foreign medical program. That's
Right.
program.
FMP.
FMP. So I considered myself to be doing what was necessary to protect myself. But when this thrombosis occurred, it was not covered by my medical that I had because it was not service connected. At least at that time, since that time, we've come to understand that it very likely is service connected. So I have had to open up a
appeal.
No, exactly, a case.
Okay.
That's actually in progress right now, in process right now. But at the time, it was not considered service related. So of course, I had to pay for it myself, just by the grace of God, because I had sold my house. I had enough money to pay for it.
Yeah. So how long were you in the hospital?
I was in the hospital maybe a week and a half.
That's all with an amputation above your knee?
Yes.
A week and a half.
All right.
I was expecting you to say 3 months.
No, I went from the hospital directly to rehab.
Rehab. Okay, so tell us this. What hospital did you go to? Was it a hospital in Boquete or was it a hospital in David?
Well, this is another story that I'm sad to share, but I think people need to know. I was taken to the public hospital first in David, and I will never go there again. I don't know what other people's experience has been there, but from what I saw and what I personally experienced, I wouldn't send one of my animals to that hospital.
Wow.
I was treated terribly, horribly there. My clothes, I was stripped naked on a table, left in the hallway where children and women could come past and see me. A nurse came to take my temperature and she stuck the instrument in my ear. And when I said, ow, she slammed my head against the wall. I was ready to crawl out of there on my hands and knees.
Oh my God.
I saw people on tables in the community room. They were just in pain and suffering and being ignored. I just can't say enough about it. I can't really say anything favorable about it that I would wish.
So is that where they did your surgery?
No, I called a friend. Well, I actually stopped a person that was passing by and asked them to call a friend for me. And I asked that friend to come and get me out of that place. They came and took me to May Lewis. And May Lewis is a nice hospital.
So is May Lewis is also in David?
It's also in David. And of course, we know that you're going to have to pay more to go to May Lewis. But I didn't have a bad experience with May Lewis. Some people say that May Lewis would not admit you unless you showed them beforehand that you could pay a certain amount and those kinds of things. That was not my experience. They took me right in and they tested me. They gave me 3 different tests for COVID and determined that I did not have COVID. And then they took me up and started right away to try to treat me for the problem.
Wow. So, okay, so fortunately then you were able to get help and get to a hospital that was more suited, okay, to care for you. So, and I've heard some tricky stuff about these public hospitals too. I've
yeah,
heard even instances in, with a public hospital here in Panama where, basically the family member was in the went to the was in the hospital, and in order to get blood tests done, they had to take the blood test to the lab themselves.
wow,
And I was like, are you kidding me? You had sample of blood that lost the care, custody, and control of, medical professionals, so that you carried it over to the lab. And I heard that from somebody I know very well, and I don't doubt for 1 second that she's telling the truth, but that was very, very hard for me to comprehend.
it's just almost
Very,
unimaginable.
very hard.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you got to what's it called?
May Lewis,
May Lewis. When you got to May Lewis, and then they determined that you were going to have surgery.
exactly.
And then you went into surgery expecting, maybe worst case scenario, you would lose some toes and maybe a foot, worst case scenario. But then when they got there, when they went in, they had to do more. And let me say this: staph had set into your leg, right?
Sepsis,
Sepsis.
yes,
Sepsis, which is like a high level infection, right?
exactly, yes.
Wow. So
And
sepsis has set in.
it was
And
kicking up
then,
my leg. Yeah,
so before they took you in, because they knew they were going to do a surgery, right? And they probably told you, listen, once we get in there, we just got to do whatever we got to do.
right,
Because there was nobody there on the outside to approve or disapprove. Once they open things up, they just got to roll. So they
right,
explained all that to you before you went in.
right.
What did they say to you with regard to the surgery? Like, did you have to put down a deposit? How did that work?
No, they never asked me for any money.
Really?
They just gave me a bill as I was leaving the hospital.
So you go in, you have the surgery, you wake up, you're in shock. They've amputated your leg from above the knee, and then you go from there to the rehab. So when you left the hospital, if you don't mind me asking, around what was the amount of your bill?
My bill was close to $10,000.
Close to $10,000.
Yes,
Oh my God. Do you know what it costs? It probably costs us in the United States to more than $10,000 to spend 2 or 3 nights in a hospital without surgery.
exactly.
I mean, my goodness. And so that's what I said, I appreciate you being transparent with us, because I wasn't expecting that. I didn't know before we started talking what that price was, but I mean, that's a small price to pay to save your life.
And then I would have expected it to be like close to 100,000 in the
I
States.
was too. I was too. It would have been that, definitely that and more, because it's our perspective on healthcare that drives us to think that way. Okay, so praise God, it was 10,000. You had some extra money stowed away, so it was no problem. Bam, you paid May Lewis. They take you over to rehab. How long did you stay there, and what was that experience like?
Um, I was there almost a year, and rehab was not a very good experience either. I have experience with rehab in the States. I was a special education, special needs educator for 30 years. So my entire career was spent with people with disabilities. I've had, I've been trained to go in and evaluate uh, rehabilitation and other care centers. I worked for the state of Texas for a period of time doing that kind of work. So I knew what an experience like that was supposed to be. But when I went in, what I discovered was that the facility could only afford one professional, and the rest of the workers there were either like barely trained or not trained at all. They only had one nurse. They had maybe two nurses assistants, nurses' aides, and the rest of the people that were working there were basically, like I said, they were either poorly trained or not trained at all.
So
So
did most
the
of the,
food was terrible. The place couldn't hire a cook, so the actual people that worked there for your care had to take turns doing the cooking, and so the cooking was something for the majority of the time. Just to be honest with you, I'm not exaggerating. For the majority of the time, the food was just not even edible. So persons like myself or other persons in there sent out for food or stored food. I was fortunate in the fact that when I went in, my room was almost like the size of a closet. It was so small, and I spoke with the owner. They had a little one-room apartment in the back that was not being used. And so I asked her if, for the same money, could I have that little one-room apartment in the back? And they thought about it and agreed to let me go in there. And so God be praised. I was fortunate that I was able to get out of that situation that was taking place on the inside of the facility and had a sense of some independence being in the apartment on the outside of the facility.
so you were not able to find, like you were able to find the May Lewis, which was, a gem to find. That wasn't available with regard to rehab. Did you try to find something a little better, or was it cost prohibitive, or where were you on that?
Well, there was only one place available in
Okay.
Boquete,
Wow.
and it had been shut down previously. They made some adjustments and opened back up. But to be honest with you, Charlotte, if the federal investigation agency had come there and done an inspection, that place would have been shut down again.
Wow.
I didn't report anything because if I had and they got shut down, where would those
Where were you
people
gonna go?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's something that, since then, have they opened any more rehabs in
No,
Boquete? Well,
not
maybe
that I'm
they
aware
need
of.
to. So, okay, so
Yeah.
tell me this. So you stayed there for about a year. They gave you physical therapy and rehab. And
They were supposed
what
to
did that, how did you, that was all cash too?
they were supposed to provide that in the amount that I was paying. I was paying $1,000 a month to be
Okay.
there, which is really quite a lot, actually. And but because I was able to move into the apartment and I had 24-hour care, I, I agreed to make those payments. But the 24-hour care went away when I moved out into the apartment, and I never received the doctor care or the rehab, the actual rehab that I was supposed to receive. The only doctor care and rehab that I received was what I received from my FMP, my foreign medical program.
Wow. So what did you do with your apartment? Because
I
you had
stayed
leased the
there,
space, right?
right? I stayed there until I could find a place that was wheelchair accessible that I felt comfortable in. And I was blessed to find the
I
house
mean,
where I
the
am
place
now.
that you had prior to getting sick.
Oh, it was a small apartment. It was nice. It was, it accommodated me for it at the time. I probably would still be there. But when I got sick, it was no longer feasible for me to stay there.
So, I mean, you say it was $1,000 a month to be in the rehab. And if you were there a year or a little over a year, the basic expense for that was about, $12,000 for the year. And although it may have seemed like a lot in Boquete, for the treatment that you were getting and the service that you were getting, comparably, it's probably a whole lot worse you could do in the United States as well, and paying a whole lot more money. I've gone into rehabs and different facilities to care for people with mainly, like I've seen some of the places for older people to go, and you just come in and urine hit you at the door, those kind of things. And those kind of places are not cheap. It's really a hard thing. So praise God, you were able to get out of there. And then then what happened? You came home, and you came home to what? You needed a new kind of apartment, and how did that
Right,
happen? Because you were in a wheelchair at that point, right?
right. I found a 3-bedroom house that I could afford. Uh, I'm actually paying a lot less to be here in the house. It afforded me the ability to use the other money to hire a care person that's here for me. She's
Mm.
now a live-in care person, and so that has been a huge blessing.
You're
Uh,
still in that same house.
I'm still here. Yes.
So you're still in that same house, and so you were able to actually save money. What do rents look like for like the kind of house that you were living in?
Well, when I moved in here, this house had never been lived in, and it had been sitting here, I think, about 3 years. So the owner was motivated to rent to me. She
Okay.
wanted she wanted 700. I negotiated for 650, but since I've been here, there's been a problem with the roof, so my rent here was reduced to 500 a month.
Wow. That's awesome.
So
That's awesome. And then plus utilities.
plus, well, plus I have to pay for my own gas and I pay my own electricity. That's it.
Okay. And in Boquete, do you have air conditioners or no?
Some places do have air conditioners. I don't have an air conditioner here. I've spoken with the manager of this property about what they might do for me if I had an air conditioner installed here. And so we're actually right now in the process of having some discussion about that. But
Okay.
the most immediate thing has been to get the roof to where it doesn't rain and we
And
have
rain
to
and rain on your
install it.
head.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, so but this place was a place that could accommodate you with with your now mobility issues, right?
Yes, very much
Okay,
so. And
very important.
because I was able to, gather myself up, have a little talk with Jesus, and reorient myself to my circumstances, I decided, with the help of God, that I still had value, that I still had
Yes,
things that I could do. Right? I didn't have to just be like a weed growing in the crack of the sidewalk.
right.
I could still be useful.
So tell me this, and you're right, and I love the way that you put that. So when you were having rehab, did it include the emotional part, the mental wellness part?
No, it never did. It was supposed to, but it didn't. I didn't start. In fact, I just now started getting um, the emotional part of it taken care of by my FMP. So I'm expecting to have an appointment either this week or the first of next week to actually see the psychiatric uh, caretaker here.
So the initial major surgery and hospital stay was not acknowledged by FMP or for your VA disability and everything, but they have since then kicked in and are assisting you abroad.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
And
That's awesome.
I'm hoping for more because um, at this point, of course, I'm I don't like to say I'm totally disabled, but I I don't have my leg. I can't walk. So you know,
You're disadvantaged to say the least.
right? I am disadvantaged, and it's dangerous for me to try to cook for myself and those kinds of things. I was trying to do that, and I almost dropped a pot of hot water in my lap. So I
Wow.
realized that I really needed to let this person that's taking care of me do what she's here to do. So
And
yeah,
how has that been for you emotionally? How have you handled that?
it's been a change. It's humbling when you can't do for yourself. When I was in the rehab, it was like uh, a person would come there and work 2 or 3 weeks and didn't care for the circumstances, and they would quit. So I had a different person, taking almost every 5 to 8 days, and
Change it up.
you're not comfortable with
Yeah.
having to expose yourself to, different
Yes.
people so often. So when I came here, one of the things that I was determined to do, if God willing, was find someone who was willing to look at my circumstances, look at their circumstances, and decide if they could feasibly be here for me, for a good period of time.
And so that's when you found a caretaker to stay with you.
Exactly.
That's
Actually, Rhonda,
awesome.
did you meet Rhonda Johnson when you came to Boquete?
Rhonda Johnson?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, everybody knows Rhonda. I shouldn't have even asked.
Listen,
But
Rhonda, I spent almost my entire time with her. She
Rhonda
took
actually
me
found the person.
around. She introduced me to other Blingos. Matter of fact, she told the radio station that I was there and they had me come for an interview.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm hoping Rhonda has had some death in her close, circle. And but I'm hoping that we can reconnect so that I can bring the Black expats from Panama City down to Boquete for the Motown thing in September.
Oh yeah, that would be
So
great.
I'm definitely gonna, yeah. So Rhonda helped you find somebody, or is she your person?
Yes, we found the person and brought him to my house for an interview.
Praise the Lord.
Yeah.
That's what you call community.
Yes.
So you move into this house, you're dealing with, I guess at no point you ever said, I'm going back to the US. You never
Oh
felt,
no,
never did.
no, never
Wow.
did.
Wow.
What I did do was I asked myself, why did I come? Well, what was it that I personally expected to do when I got here? And the answer to that was I wanted to be able to sit on my front porch and fish.
Wow.
So I wanted to fish, but when I started checking the charters around here, no one wanted to put me on their boat. So I decided that the best way for me to still be able to go fishing was to buy a boat. I did that,
So
and
that
I've
takes
been.
us to the next part of your amazing story.
Mm,
So, okay, so you've gone through all of this, and then you say, okay, I came here to do this. I want to fish. I want to
okay,
fish. I want to live a life filled with peace. And then
wonderful.
when you go to do it, you find that in your new circumstances, nobody could either accommodate you or didn't want to
Exactly.
accommodate you because you had you were now attached to a wheelchair.
Right.
So what did you do at that point?
I looked around and found a boat that I liked and that I could afford, and purchased it and started looking for a captain, someone that could actually pilot the boat for me that was interested in fishing. I knew that Panama, particularly around the BEIP, has a large fishing community. And long story short, the good Lord provided a young man who was a captain. He was actually experienced with what they call handline fishing. One of the things that the Panama people and the indigenous people do here is when they can't afford rod and reels, they use a string and they use their hands to fish. So he knew the fishing areas very intimately because he's in this canoe-like boat going from place to place, and he's not fishing as a sport. He's fishing to feed his family.
Right.
Yeah. So I was able to provide him with the opportunity to be the captain of my boat, to learn to use rod and reels, and to fish in the way that the charter people, the charter businesses do here. And he's been
So,
great.
so when you got your boat, the boat was not automatically ready to accommodate you either, correct?
No, not at all. No.
Okay. So then that takes us to the next part. You was like, okay, how do I make this boat so that it can work for me? You found yourself a captain, you found
Right.
yourself a boat. Then what did you do?
I got with the captain and I asked him, what can we do to make this boat more accessible and more safe for me. And we both looked at it together, and we decided that there were a few things that absolutely needed to be done, and some other things that could possibly be done. And so I just started doing those things to make it safer and more accessible. And when I finally reached the point where I looked at the boat and said, okay, I think it's safe enough and accessible enough for me to actually experience going out in this boat, maybe doing a little fishing. And when I did that, I was so elated when
Yeah.
I got back that, that we had actually accomplished this. I sat down, and in thinking about it, I realized that I'm not the only person that probably wants to go fishing. I'm not the only person around here that has a disability or a challenge, a mobility challenge. And
Yes.
these people are not able to get access to tourism. So I said, well, if my boat is safe and accessible for me, surely it could be safe and accessible for other persons with disabilities similar to mine. So I wanted to make my boat available to them as well.
So is that when you created the company Fishbox?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay, so then you created the company Fishbox, and Fishbox allows you to take people out on your boat, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
you can take people out on your boat, and your boat will comfortably seat or fit how many?
Well, it's designed for 6 people, but
Mhm.
I have my captain and a first mate that are attached to the boat. So that means we can take 4 other people. But I won't take 4 people who have disabilities. I
Right.
will take as many as 2 people that have
Okay.
disabilities because I'm pretty confident that my captain and my first mate can responsibly handle, 2 people with moderate disabilities. But able-bodied persons, I'll take as many as 4.
Okay. So what was one of the first things you did to the boat? And we gotta kind of wrap it up soon, but I'm just
Okay.
like, what was the first thing that you needed? Was it a ramp situation to get to the boat, or like what did you have to do to the boat for like to get on the boat?
Well, actually, uh, that was an important thing to address, but I did not address getting on the boat as the first thing. The first thing that I addressed was security on the boat. There's like metal railings, and there's a canopy that
Okay.
has metal posts. I wanted to make sure that all of those were secure, that if a person needed to grab hold of one of those, that it could hold up to 300 pound, person or better. I also wanted to make sure that the flooring was all secure. I wanted to make sure that my motor was in the best of condition so we would not have any motor failures out on the water. I wanted to
Can
make
they
sure
bring
that,
motorized scooters on, or does it have to be the manual ones? Because I know the motorized ones can be kind of heavy, right?
well, if it's a motorized wheelchair, we can deal with it. But the motorized scooter would be a little more. It would.
I
It's
probably
more
said the
comfortable.
wrong word. I probably said the wrong word. I meant wheelchair.
Well, there is a motorized scooter, so I needed to address both. Yeah, the scooter would, at this point in time, not be possible. But
Okay.
one of the things that I think I mentioned to you earlier that I would like to have is a lift. And if I was able to get that lift at some point, and we could use the lift to actually lift a person that was in the motorized uh, uh, wheelchair together, the both of them together, swing them over and lower them down into the ship, into the boat with no problem.
So I've seen some of your pictures where you had some guests, on the boat, and it makes it very clear to me when you say like it's not like for people with mobility issues. Maximum of 2 people with mobility issues, you said, could come on the boat. But I think that's an amazing thing, and you're right. You're not the only person with this issue. And so I think that you have a niche. you have a niche audience. A lot of people, one thing about Panama is very popular for retirement.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? I have multiple groups in different countries, and my Mexico group is completely different than my Panama group. Okay, their objectives is a little bit different, but the Panama group is an older group, anywhere between 45 and up.
Yeah.
A lot of people are over 60. So to know that, I mean, when you're in another country like Panama,
Mhm.
coming from the United States, you definitely recognize right away that not everything is as wheelchair friendly and people with disability friendly as it is in the United States. With that said, I've seen a lot of improvement and progress in Panama. I'm not in Panama City. I'm not real sure about the Boquete David area, but it's something that there's a lot of people that would be interested in. And
Let
that's
me
why
tell
I'm
you
so
this,
happy to
Robert.
be talking to you today, because I think in order for you to take this to the next level and be able to bring the best value and services to people in that particular category, you need people to join in with you, or people that, have this interest too, to at least talk to you about some ideas.
That would be great. Let me tell you this, Charlotte. Um, I put out a feeler. I went on the social media and only put out one to the Boquete area. And when I published it, within 2 hours, I had 215 people respond.
What?
Yes, ma'am.
That's it. There's your, because there is a need. And then, like you said, there's, if you need it, somebody else needs it.
Right.
When I'm dealing with the public, I say, and somebody gives me some feedback, I take it into, even if it seems like silly or irrelevant to me, what I know is that if one person needs it, or one person thinks it, somebody else thinks it too. That's interesting.
Yes.
So
there's definitely a niche.
so basically, like, we're going to get ready to have to close, but with Fishbox, you're out of Boquete, and what would you be looking for as far as people wanting to partner with you, people wanting to help with what you're doing? Like, what would you be looking for? And tell us how people would get in touch with you.
Well, I had a business partner when I started, a young man that's a doctor, and he decided that he wanted to build a home and needed a cash flow to do that. And I was really interested in getting full ownership of my boat. So I bought him out. But as a partner, of course, we would look at the things that we could do together to make Fishbox more accessible, that we could make it more available to more people, and make sure that we have the equipment and the facility to actually operate a safe, first of all, safety is number one, but a safe and a wonderful Panamanian experience that that people with these disabilities, I mean, they're living here where people travel from all around the world to come here for the quote unquote Panamanian experience and the fishing experience. This fishing community here in Panama, fishing is the number one fishing location in the world for fishermen to come here from China and other places. So
Now, would it apply to lakes?
here?
This would be primarily lake, right?
I'm sorry?
This is primarily lakes.
Lakes?
Yes, like where you take the boat out, is it primarily lakes, or, I mean,
No, we
rivers,
go to the
or
ocean. We go to the sea.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
we go where we can actually, I mean, there are lakes here in Panama. We can go to a lake, but so far I've been concentrating on going where the people where we have an opportunity to catch just about any fish out there.
So, but that's not really like right in Boquete though, right?
No,
You have
that's
to
closer
travel
to
a
the
distance, right?
That's closer to the V. We have a place there's
Okay.
fishing locations all along the coast here on this side of Panama. There's also locations on the Atlantic side.
So, okay, so now the boat is like a 19-foot boat.
Yes.
It's a 19-foot boat, and you say it can go out as many miles? How many miles?
The boat itself can go as far as 60 miles or a little bit better, and
I'm sure.
comfortably make it back. But the boat is trailerable, so as far as where we go and what waters we actually fish, we can go just about anywhere in Panama.
It's options. Okay, so and then once you get out there, there's a lot of people that will want to do this and they want to fish. And then so when they fish from the boat. But is it also available for people that want to get in the water and do like in-water sports or?
Yes, you brought up another subject. We do want to accommodate people that just want tourism, go whale watching, go island hopping, go to see some of the tourist types of, they have a beach where people go to see the starfish. They have another beach where people go to see the pigs because there's like pigs all over the island.
What?
Frogs, there's frogs all over the island. So yeah, we want to do this. But let me tell you very quickly, the people that want to go and say do some swimming under the water, do some snorkeling is what I'm trying to think of. I want them to actually know about the conditions of the waters here and how conservation, preservation, restoration, these kinds of things are important to the economy of Panama. And that they will have an opportunity not only to just snorkel around and look at the beautiful things there and come back, they actually have an opportunity to do some documentation while they're there. And we can take this documentation, what we see, the conditions of what we see, and we can take it back to the educational facility that's responsible for the restoration of the reef. One of the projects is putting
environmental awareness.
Exactly. Provide some intel back to the institutions here that are responsible for the health of the ocean. You know, most of the other, I don't know of any of the other charters that are actually keeping a record of what they catch, what they see, and anything that's going on under the water.
That sounds very, very progressive. Sounds very progressive and very fitting for Panama, because I think, you know, for the most part, Panama is very progressive, or at least moving in the right direction. So I'm glad that you're thinking of these things and that giving other people an opportunity to work with you on this. So I gotta go, but before I go, could you just tell people how they would find you or how they would get in touch with you?
Okay, I'm on WhatsApp, of course. My WhatsApp number is 6012-6012-4766. And I'm on the Facebook as well. You can look for Fishbox on Facebook, or contact me directly, William C. Scott II, on Facebook. And those are the most convenient ways, I believe, to contact me.
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm sure that some folk will contact you. I mean, you put a social media post out there and you got all those hits. That is just like an absolute positive indication that there are a lot of people out here that have your concerns as well. And I'm so happy that you were able to spend some time with me and be on the show and share it.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I really appreciate this.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Well, thank you so much. And I will make sure that all of your information is included in the text that we put with this interview. And we will be in touch soon. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay.